What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another weekly review. I hope everybody's doing well and is looking forward to the new week. And yeah, we have quite a big week this week. CPI on Wednesday, high impact news on Friday, Thursday, and Tuesday we have PPI. So I am expecting a lot of movement and volatility this week. To be honest, the fact that we have so much news this week compared to last week is probably why we found that last week was very, consolidated and not ideal. But nonetheless, I am expecting a down close week. If you've been following me for the past few weeks, you'll know that I've been wanting to see price continue to push lower, and that has been what we've been getting, as in we're continuously getting down close weeks. Last week was significantly difficult for me, just because price action wasn't very nice in general. So it'll be interesting to see how we approach this next week. Nonetheless, in terms of the weekly, we can start looking at PD arrays that can help us frame potential trading setups and ideas as to where we want to see price draw. So my main target for the week, if we want to see a down close week, will be this fair value gap right here. We haven't even touched it yet. You can see we made a low just above it, engineering in potential liquidity. That price we want to come and grab this week. So let's get this marked out as a weekly fair value gap. And this is my draw on liquidity. This is where I want to see price draw towards this week, where most of the expansion I want to see happen towards, and just the overall direction. Now, when I do mark out these PD arrays, it's not me saying price has to get here. It's just me framing where liquidity is, and that will help me get on the right side of the market in terms of trading, because I understand, okay, if we're likely to expand lower, then in terms of setups and things, we're looking to trade in line with the higher time frame, which is the weekly. So I hope that all makes sense. Now, in terms of premium PD arrays, we have a beautiful bearish order block right here. So let's get the opening price of that marked out. And because it's CPI this week, along with PPI and all sorts, I think consumer sentiment as well or something, because of the kind of news we have this week, there is likely going to be a lot of manipulation. So we do need to be wary of that, and we need to be prepared. Nonetheless, this is a weekly bearish order block. So let's get that marked out like so. Move it to the right, center. And then if price does manage to reach up into this premium, I'd expect a strong reaction off that. There is also obviously this fair value gap first. So it'll be interesting to see if price can trade into this. Price doesn't need to get to the weekly bearish order block open. It can, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did. However, this fair value gap is the first PD array, so I'm looking at this first, and more specifically I'm going to be looking at the 50% of it, because what you'll find is that price may simply only trade to the 50% level, and that will be enough to grab stops to then move lower. Because we're expecting a down close week, we expect the week to expand like this. We expect it to open, create the high Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday like so, and then expand lower Thursday into Friday, and then return back into its range. This is a general, really basic and crude depiction of what a week looks like. But when I have a bias, this is how I approach my weeks, expecting or anticipating a high to be made and then move lower, which is why I always mark out my premium PD arrays and then my discount PD arrays with my premium expected to get traded to first. Now, what you might find is that we don't want to trade into this, say, on Monday or Tuesday. It may want to do it on Wednesday. So what you'll find is that we may consolidate first, maybe trade lower, then make the high, and then trade on lower. So the week can deliver in different ways. It's just that for a weekly review, generally speaking, we're expecting the general high, and then expansion lower, and then return. So yeah, we are only going to drop down to the 4 hour because it is a weekly review. I don't tend to go lower than that until after Monday's traded, especially considering we don't have any news tomorrow. So I think it is best we do just let Monday trade. Let's now drop down to the daily. This is also a weekly fair value gap. Let's get that marked out like so. And then you'll also see this breaker, which I've been drawing our attention to a lot. Now, last week I spoke about this breaker. Why is it a breaker? We have a high, a low, a higher high, and then we have clear expansion to the downside. So we're anticipating and expecting price to return back to this before turning around. And you can see that that weekly fair value gap just happens to line up with the breaker closing price right there. So I am looking to see if price can trade back into that, and this is where I'd expect a nice reaction, and where most of my setups to go short on dollar and long on the pairs to potentially form. So we're looking at the last down close candle, which is obviously between this close and this open. We can look at the 50% level, but I don't want to get too specific as of now. We also have a bearish order block right here, which is nice to see. Let's go down to the 4 hour, and you'll see we've engineered this beautiful high right here on Thursday. I do want to see this get taken as buy side liquidity, so let's get that marked out, especially considering it's a 4 hour and it's a daily high actually, isn't it? It's a daily high, so this is going to be an easy draw on liquidity. If Monday doesn't take it, Tuesday or Wednesday I'd like to see price take that. Now let's say price doesn't take it at all on Monday. If Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday doesn't trade into this buy side liquidity, then that means we're likely trading lower first and then coming back to it, maybe on the back of CPI or towards the end of the week. So this is another way I help frame my bias. Although I want to see this buy side liquidity get taken first, if it doesn't take it first and it say goes to our sell side target, which is just down here, let's say this gets traded to instead first, then I just simply reverse my expectations and then expect this buy side to get taken. But generally speaking, I'd like to think we can take that buy side first. But yeah, that's nothing to stress about too much. Again, breaker, we're looking at the last down close candle. You can see this lines up perfectly with the last down close candle before the up move. So very nice to see. If we want to get a little bit more specific, we can get these two down close candles, and then this is when I'd usually drop down to the 1 hour and really home in on price. However, I'm not going to do that just because, again, I want Monday to trade first, and you can see we're still in a bit of consolidation. So that's going to be everything, guys. I hope that all makes sense. But generally this week I want to see, can we reach this premium, and then after, can we take the south side, and ideally price doesn't trade like this, but it can do it. Price will go lower, grab stops, and then we'll see it trade aggressively higher. However, yeah, it's just best to it's just best to let Monday trade first. Tuesday we have high impact news as well, and then obviously on the back of CPI that will help us. But generally speaking, this is all I'm looking at. So that's going to be everything on dollar. I hope that all makes sense. Make sure to join the Discord as well, guys. The link is in the description. And now let's drop down let's go to GBPUSD. So we're going to start on the weekly here as well. And as you know, GBP has been incredibly weak recently. If we're expecting a down close week on dollar, that means we want to see an up close week on pound. And I've been wanting to see an up close week on pound for last week and the week before, but you can see pound's giving us down close weeks 2 weeks in a row now when we were expecting up close. This is really confusing, and I'll show you why. If we add dollar weekly, you can see that dollar's also had a down close week and 2 down close weeks, right? So what is that saying? It's saying that pound is misbehaving, or pound has something wrong with it, because when we add euro USD, you know that euro is behaving in terms of closing higher in line with dollar closing lower. But then pound's the only one that's deciding not to go with the curve. So if anything, pound ideally will be the one catching up, and we may find incredible expansion on pound. So we do need to take that into consideration. Nonetheless, if we're expecting an up close week, where could we be trading to, and what kind of lows could we be making? Now we have this bullish order block right here that we've also already traded to last week. I traded into that. As far as I'm concerned, price shouldn't need to get back into that fair value, back into this order block. It can do it, but ideally the lowest I'd want to see price trade on pound would be the 50% level of this wick, because if we are bullish, it should get respected, and that's what we call consequent encroachment. So let's just get these all delineated. So we have this bullish order block, but I'm going to grey this out. Why? It's already been traded to, so let's get this marked out as a weekly bullish order block. Center that. And then this is a weekly consequent encroachment. Move it to the right, center. We'll make it, let's make it red. And this is the lowest ideally I want to see price trade. It can go lower. I'm not saying price can't go below this, guys. It's just ideally price shouldn't need to. In terms of premium and where we could trade to, we have this fair value gap first to try and fill. Remember, I want to see this one get filled. You see how on dollar I wanted to see the 50% level get traded to? On this one, it's the opposite. I want to see the whole thing get traded through. Sometimes we aim for PDRAs to get traded through. Sometimes we aim for PDRAs to get traded to. In this case, I want it to be traded to and through. So up to it and then through it, assuming we're bullish. So let's get rid of this middle line, and we're just looking at this as a premium PDRA. So it's a weekly fair value gap. And it'll be interesting to see if price, It'd be interesting to see if price can get through that. And then obviously we have a fair value gap above here as well, so we have buy side liquidity, but I'm not going to worry about that until we've traded to this. So I'm not going to clog up my charts right now. My eyes are set here. Let's now drop down to the daily. So you'll see our price made a low, high, lower low, beautiful expansion off of that weekly bullish order block. This right here, if you've been watching my videos, you'll know I've done this example before, but this is a perfect example of, you know, like a reversal, and I'll show you what I mean. So when we have a significant level, price level, in this case it was a weekly bullish order block, we expect price to trade into it, pull out, run the lows, and then expand higher. Is this not a perfect example of that? We made a low, made a high, made a lower low here, and then we traded on higher. This is what I'm talking about when I show you this example, guys. And then when you study this, it does make things a lot clearer. Let me try and show you what I mean. That's just a crude example of what I'm talking about. So yeah, very nice to see. Again, 50% below this low, so there's sell stops below there, and you can see that lines up with this wick as well. There should be a breaker in this wick. Why should there be a breaker? Because we have a low, a high, a lower low. So there's some kind of up close candle, maybe on the 4 hour, on the 1 hour, that should be very sensitive to price, that we might be able to key off to help send us into our weekly fair value gap target. Nonetheless, let's go down to the 4 hour, take a closer look, and then we're looking for the last up close candle. Do you see it? Right here. And what does that happen to line up with? The weekly consequent encroachment. So when PD arrays like this layer each other, I absolutely love it. It does make trading a lot cleaner. What you'll also find is this high. This is another breaker. Technically this is a breaker, low, high, lower, low, right? However, we do also have this one, low, high, lower, low. So we don't need to be too specific. Don't make sure you're not stressing yourself out like, oh, is it this one or that one? It doesn't necessarily matter. We know it's in this range. This is a discount for price, and we expect price to find support. If price trades through this, we know instantaneously at that point that we're on the wrong side of the market, because it shouldn't do it. It can do it, it just shouldn't. And if it doesn't, then we're on the right side and we can use that to our advantage. If it does, it's telling us something. It's opening its hand. It's saying, look, this is what I want to do. So that's the beauty of understanding PD arrays and why you should definitely study them. I'm not going to keep this whole range marked out because the 50% level, the consequent encroachment pretty much does it enough. Nonetheless, I am going to mark out the lows of this because this is a beautiful sell side target that I'd want to see get ran before potential reversal for the week. Let's go down to the 1 hour and you'll see again beautiful lows. I do believe this is engineered. Again, breaker. Why is this a breaker? Oh, 1 second. Let's go up. Oh, have I done this wrong? Current all intervals. No. Visibility on the current interval and below. Yeah. So here's the 1 hour, and then you'll see that again, consequent encroachment. What does it line up with? Breaker, low, high, last up close candle, lower low, trade higher, and a fair value gap. And remember what I was just saying. When a fair value gap lines up with a breaker, it's a very high probability. But we do need to remember that pound has been moving absolutely crazy recently, so we need to be extra careful. But nonetheless, I am going to be watching this area right here, and ideally, if we do reverse out of it, that should help us for a nice setup. But again, easier said than done. And like I said, it's very possible price may want to rally first and then come back down for all of this. But ideally, I'd like to think that we can get down there and then get a nice reversal. Relative equal highs, but we'll talk more on that later in this week. So now we're going to finish up on Euro USD. Of course, let's now start here on the weekly as well. Now Euro's behaving a little bit better. If we're expecting a down close week on dollar, what do we want to see? We want to see an up close week on Euro. So what are we looking for? Well, we want to see some kind of low get created and then us trade on higher. You can see we traded down into this bullish order block, obviously got a nice reaction off it. I do believe price is going to retrace back below this low, probably into this range here. It's not very clean price action, and as in there's not very many clear weekly PD arrays right here as to where I'm expecting price to reach necessarily. We do have an inversion fair value gap. Now the reason I don't want to use these too much right now is because they're not very strong PD arrays, and what I mean by that is that they can fail very easily, and then it can make things quite difficult, especially on the higher time frames. So like although it's an inversion fair value gap, you see how we're wicking around it so much. That's because we're on the weekly, right? So the time it takes for price to churn, the range it has, the ability it has to trade outside of the gaps is way more compared to a lower time frame. I don't know if that makes sense. Nonetheless, let's take a look at a few things. Look at how we respected the 50% level of this 2 weeks ago. We're coming away from that. So we want to see price continue to support that kind of sponsorship. Price is clearly respecting bullish PD arrays. Why? We failed to reach that 50% level, traded on higher, traded into a bullish order block, traded on higher. So anytime we come back down into this range, into this discount, so to speak, we want to see, can price, continue to hold itself, and then start thinking about running these highs. So let's keep this inversion fair value gap on for now. Drop down to the daily, see what we can find. In terms of premium, I'm looking at this high, buy side liquidity. I'm not going to look at the consequent encroachment, just because, again, if we're bullish, consequent encroachment, we want to see it get traded to and through, which means it's basically going to go for the buy side liquidity. So I'm not too concerned about consequent encroachment, if that makes sense, on the buy side. Let's go to the daily. Now this is that inversion fair value gap, and you can see down here we do have a breaker. Again, low, high, lower low, and we traded on higher. And you'll see that this low, high, lower low, this high is also lined up with this. So, we have a breaker candle here and also a wick of one as well, which is very nice to see. Let's get this marked out. We'll make this a darker blue. And it'll be interesting to see if price can make its low below here, running out these stops from Thursday's low, similar to what we saw on pound. South side liquidity. Let's get the marking out. So this is a daily breaker. This is a weekly inversion fair value gap, and this is a daily sell side liquidity pool. And then in terms of premium, again, like I said, we're just looking to see if we can get out there. But first, I only care about making a discount. And one thing to take note of as well is weeks like trading both sides. So trading trading down as much as high. What you'll find is that downwards price action might be very high resistance, and then upwards is much more cleaner. I'm looking for the cleanest resistance, basically. When I trade, I want to see moves like this, not like this. You see how difficult it had for time getting down here, and then how easy it was for price to cut up higher. That is another easy, bullish signal for price. It's when you see, low resistance, liquidity, and high resistance. But that's a story for another day. Let's go to the 4 hour. Again, looking for that daily sell side to get swept. Low, high, lower, low. So we're looking at these wicks specifically. What do we have? Fair value gap. So very high probability. However, again, if it gets traded through, whole nother story. We're probably much more bearish than we thought. But ideally, I'm looking to see how price respects it. Check the 1 hour. Yeah. So that's going to be everything, guys. I hope that all makes sense. Again, it is only Sunday. Personally, I'd be letting Monday trade, especially considering there's no high impact news, so I'm not expecting much movement. We may not even trade it. We probably won't take out this sell side liquidity tomorrow. Price may just continue to gyrate and build up liquidity, or we might find that price tries to create some kind of high. But I'm not touching the charts until very least Tuesday. So yeah, that's going to be everything, guys. Hope you found this insightful. Don't forget to smash subscribe. We've got so many new subscribers recently. I want to say thank you. Welcome to everyone. Join the mailing list. Join the Discord. The link is in the description. And I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace.